Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Playbook for Performance podcast. I'm your host, Shauna Corden, and my mission is to make work fun again by building better leaders. Right now, we're in the middle of our 20-week challenge to build your resilience. So what is resilience? Resilience means that when times get tough, you bend instead of break. And how do we build resilience? We build a strong foundation. And in order to do that, we've got 20 weeks of tips and tricks that will help you take action, that'll help you build that resilience. And this week, we're talking about simplify your life. If you're just joining us, it's not important that you do these things in order. You can join us at any time. You can do 2 lessons in the same week. That's just fine. But I would encourage you at the end to go back and revisit and kind of clean up anything that you didn't feel like you may have perfected. So let's get started. So, especially right now, it's the holiday season when I'm recording this, and things are really busy. We've got a lot of schedules that are quite full. There's a lot of obligations because school year is ending, things like that. Well, semester is ending or term is ending. There's sports, there's all kinds of things that are happening. And then there's exciting things like college football bowl games and Christmas parties and Hanukkah and all kinds of stuff like that. So we have to be really choosy so we don't burn out. So what's burnout? Burnout is when our demands exceed our capacity. And this is a very common time for people to have burnout because they're trying to make a year-end push, whether it's work quotas, sales quotas, just general additional activity. Up here in the northern hemisphere, the weather is poor. We're spending more time indoors, and so our immune systems get taxed. And if we're around enough other germs, people can get sick. So one of the best things we can do is just simplify our life. And that means, in a drastic sense, cut 50% of what's in there. So looking at your calendar, if we looked at all the appointments in your week, what are the 50% of the things that you could cut? What could you get the notes from in terms of a meeting? Could you send somebody else? Is there another decision that can be made? Can you put it off for a little while? If you ignore it, will it go away? That happens a lot with stuff on email. So what can you do? Now, a lot of people are addicted to the busyness. It makes them feel important. It makes them feel like they have relevance, feeds their ego. And I get that. I've been there. I've done that. But do recognize that boredom, that space that you can create can give you some peace. So instead of trying to book 8 meetings in a day back to back to back and barely having enough time to go take a bio break or eat a protein bar, actually schedule 45-minute meetings instead of hour-long meetings. Make a meeting a walking meeting where you're walking and talking with your partner. Actually sit down and take a lunch that's not at your desk. I know it feels luxurious, but that's part of what brings us peace. And it allows us also to be present, because how often are we in back-to-back meetings where we've finished a meeting, we need to take a couple notes, we need to send off an email, and so the first part of the next meeting, we're not even paying attention. We're finishing up the tasks from the previous meeting. And that can be really frustrating. So when we're super busy, people tend to either live in the past, figuring out the stuff to do from the last meeting, or they're in the future. They're kind of speculating and confabulating about what might happen in the future. And they're not really present. They're not listening. They're not giving their conversation partners their full attention. And it can be quite frustrating. It's also really unfulfilling. So we want to ask ourselves, why did I choose this? Why did I choose to be so busy? Why do I have so many clients? Why do I have so many activities that are really not fulfilling me? And we can't figure that out unless we have the space to do so. So we need the quiet. So we really want to live in the moment and avoid dwelling on the past. It might be that you tell the folks in your meeting, I need 5 minutes to finish up the previous meeting. Can we please take 5 minutes or delay 5 minutes? You will not believe how welcome that is to people because they're all suffering from the same thing. It also helps you to keep from speculating on that future. Like, gosh, if I don't get this memo out today, then this is going to happen and this is going to happen, etc. And the media has some influence on that. The media is wired to grab your attention. You know, clickbait, disaster forecasting from, CBS, NBC, you name it. They know how to get your attention. They'll say things like flu season's at its highest. COVID vaccines are running out. You name it. They are there to get your attention and get eyes on their channel or clicks on their site. And so part of that is they give you this illusion that the hustle is the way that things happen. And that is not always true. You might be busy with activity, but not importance. So we really need to examine using that Covey table and I encourage you to Google it if you're not familiar with it, important versus urgent. We really want to focus our time and attention on the things that are both urgent and important, or just important, period. If it's not important, if it's not urgent, why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Okay? So that's really the highlights of this lesson. If you love this concept, there are tons of resources that you can spend a lot of time on and a lot of energy on that I think are well worth it. Dwayne Elgin has the Voluntary Simplicity Movement and the book by the same name. I believe there's also a workbook by the same name that really gets into the detail about simplifying and what that might look like. There's also an excellent book called Your Money or Your Life that basically has you calculate everything that all this busyness affords you and all the expenses that go along with it. And are they really necessary? So I would highly recommend those two resources if this is something that you're really interested in. I think for those fashionistas out there, there are also some resources out there about buying less, buying better. There's an app called Cladwell that helps you with your closet and kind of tracking your purchases and cost per wear and all kinds of stuff like that. That's a personal interest of mine. So they all go along with the simplicity movement. And in addition, generally, simplicity is better for the planet. So if the planet's your thing, then this is something you might want to really look into more deeply. We encourage you to, of course, give us a like, tell your friends about it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. But what we really want is for you to encourage your friends to join. A rising tide lifts all boats. You don't want to upgrade your life and have higher standards and live more intentionally while the rest of your friends and family and partners are keeping in their own sort of ignorant bubble. We want to grow together. There's also a theme sheet that can help you in terms of being more intentional about this 20-week challenge. It's available at our site. Michelle put the links out here for you to download it. And it just helps you kind of decide what your goals are for each week, how you're going to reward yourself, and what your consequences are going to be. And consequences are different than punishment in that you benefit from a consequence as opposed to suffer from a punishment. So please join us. We'd love to have you be part of the challenge. And if you have any questions, you can, of course, send a message to podcast@shaunacorden.com. You can also follow us on Instagram @Playbook for Performance, and we'll monitor the DMs there. So take good care. See you next week.